It's episode 1 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of June 1st, 2022. My name's Logan Plant. Thanks so much for joining us here in the boardroom. Allow me to introduce my fellow chairman of the board. We've got the Pokemaniac, Odell Harmon Jr.,
How's everybody doing today?
and the lapsed Pokefan, Chris Shriver.
I am here.
Are you lapsed? Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. I'm old. It's different. It's different than being lapsed.
Yeah, all right. We've got a great show ahead. We're going to dive into the latest look at Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. We may have the first Toadstool debate on our hands. I don't know. I got a feeling it could get heated in here. We're also going to take a look at Nintendo's lineup for 2022 and beyond and get into what we think we could see from them in a showcase this month. But let's get started with just a little bit of housekeeping. This is our first normal episode of the Toadstool Boardroom. If you've stumbled across us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you're listening on, we're working to get up on all your favorites right now. And you're wondering, who the heck are these guys? You can go check out the episode right before this. That's our episode 0, where we get into what this show is going to be all about, who we are as people, who we are as Nintendo fans. Odell drops a bomb about Yoshi's Island and drops a mic. So go check out episode 0 if you want to get to know us a little more. If you like what you've seen or heard so far of the Toadstool Boardroom, follow us on Twitter at ToadstoolBR. You can email us, whatever you want to email us, at toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. And please tell your friends. We've got lofty goals for this show, and to meet them, we're going to need your help. Okay, let's get into it. Pokemon Scarlet, Pokemon Violet got a new trailer today. There is a release date. The games are coming on November 18th. It's the big fall game. I think that kind of sealed the deal as the big fall game, especially after Zelda was delayed. So new gen coming in November. There's going to be 4-player co-op, which they very briefly showed in the trailer. They showed off the new legendaries, Koraidon and Miraidon. Don't know if I'm saying those right. They're the legendaries. They look like motorcycles, so look forward to that. Hopefully maybe post-game, riding around on some motorcycle Pokemon. Scarlet kind of looks like the past. Violet taking hues from the future. Maybe that could be some themes. New Pokemon, including Lechonk, which is the pig that everyone went crazy for.
My spirit animal.
Today. Yeah, I saw you were excited about Lechonk.
Yeah.
And then the official Pokemon website, this is going to be an open world game. They're calling it a world that you're free to explore at your leisure and not in an order dictated by this story. So there's a lot to dive into with this first look at Pokemon, but I want to start here. As good as Legends Arceus played, it was not a visually impressive game. This game looks a lot better. It's the best looking Pokemon game on Switch, I think, from what we saw. Chris, you seem to be disagreeing already.
I don't know if it's the art style. I don't know if it's the pixelated nature of the grass in these games. I will say, now, you know what, you're right. I think from a, like Arceus definitely had a certain aesthetic that it was going for, where it was supposed to look like almost like a painting. This is definitely more of a traditional kind of, almost like a sword and shield art style to it.
But much better.
Yeah,
Sword and Shield is ugly. It's
well,
ugly
yeah,
game.
yeah. It's definitely an improvement. If anything, it's a meeting of the minds. It's a blending of those two things.
Yeah, Odell, what'd you think of the visuals?
You know, best looking Pokemon game is not a high bar to clear.
It's not.
So yes, it is the best looking Pokemon game, but it's still not where it should be, quite honestly. Unless, it's gonna look amazing on the OLED, or we're really gonna get that Switch 2, and it's just like, oh yeah, custom edition, special edition Switch 2 Pokemon. Yeah, so, but it's like, it's the best looking Pokemon game, so that makes me feel good, but it still not looks as good as I want it to. But when I look at the trailer, especially if you go back to that first trailer, there's some shots of, like, especially the one with the Magnemite at like dusk. That looks crisp. That looks like 1080p, borderline 4K, and you see other images and it doesn't look so good. So I'm like, maybe they're still polishing it. Fingers crossed. But if it's as good as it's gonna get, then it's passable. If it's a 70 in my mind, it passes the class in visuals.
I feel like this is what I would expect the franchise's first outing on the platform to look like. Instead, it is the 5th mainline outing, the 4th the Game Freak has handled with Let's Go Pikachu, Eevee, Sword Shield, Legends, and now this. We're 5 years into this thing, and I guess to me it kind of looks like maybe a year 1 Switch game. But I don't want to get into like Treegate and all that stuff like Sword and Shield was. And also, I feel like I need to clarify something. Best looking mainline Pokemon game. New Pokemon Snap is gorgeous and completely outclasses this game.
I wasn't
visually,
gonna make that
anyways.
comparison, but yeah, I mean that game
on
yeah.
rails, very linear.
Yeah, very hard.
No,
But-
you know, new Pokemon Snap did give me hope. Cause I was like, okay, if Pokemon could look this good, maybe the next Pokemon game will look this good. But clearly, I was wrong, and I'm glad I did not set myself up for failure. Then I told myself, nope, this is on rails. They can do a lot better. The next Pokemon game won't be this, sadly.
So, getting a little more into the nitty gritty of the trailer, to be fair, there's still a lot of time left to show off this game. There's still 5 months before it comes out. But for being a big reveal of the first big open world new gen mainline Pokemon game, I don't feel like we got that much. It was a pretty standard, here's the Route 1 Pokemon, here are the new professors, here's the new rival, and a very brief look at the region. I guess for a big, and the legendaries, I guess for a big reveal, I kind of want to see how this open world is going to work, but for now, that's still a really big mystery with a few months to go before release.
You know, I don't feel like we've gotten the big reveal yet. I still feel like the very first trailer was very teaser trailer, like, it's happening. Even though, we got the stuff in the starters. And to me, this is like teaser trailer number 2, because I feel like both of these trailers could have been combined into one giant teaser, because we still don't know the name of the region, and that's usually something you get like, day one. We don't know the name of the region. We don't know what we're doing. There's a lot of details we usually get in Pokemon that we still haven't. So I'm still like, this isn't the reveal yet. I feel like trailer 1 was, it's happening. Trailer 2 was release date, and we got bonuses sprinkled in. But I think that's the only thing they were trying to accomplish. So I'm still waiting on the big reveal, the Pokemon Direct, where it's just Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, admittedly, I watched this trailer during the workday with no sound on. So I actually wasn't even aware of the open world nature of it until, going through the news after the fact. But that being said, watching the trailer without audio, I definitely didn't gather any of that. Like I knew, okay, they had 4-player involved in it. I didn't know what it meant beyond that. That being said, though, I think the idea of that is very exciting. I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing about this game, if done well, and not that I have played Elden Ring, but this almost seems like an Elden Ring type of Pokemon game where it's like, yes, you can tackle it in any direction you want it to be in, and you can do multiplayer with up to 4 players. Whether or not they actually deliver on that, and it's a smooth online experience and actually fun to do and balanced, that's a lot for them to handle.
You're asking a lot. Yeah,
I know.
I'm worried about it. The wild area in Sword and Shield had multiplayer. It was terrible.
Right.
Connections dropped all the time. It ran even worse than it did when you were playing single player, where it already didn't run great. So I'm excited that they're being ambitious, right? I feel like I sat here for a decade wanting the Pokemon company to try something new, and they finally are. Legends was a big departure. This looks like a big departure. So kudos to them for that. But I just want to see more of what this stuff actually looks like, because you're talking 4-player co-op. What's the extent of that going to be? It says on the website that you can explore the region, various locations in the region with other players. Does that mean there's like 3 wild areas, like 3 gated components where you can bring in your friends and explore? Or is it like we can walk from one end of the map to the other? You talk about Elden Ring, it's even limited in its co-op. You summon people in, you're limited to that area you're in, and once you reach the outer edge of that area, your friend has to leave, you walk into the next one, you call them back. So it's like, for an open world game to be fully multiplayer like this, go anywhere you want, do anything, I'm concerned, I think, about what it's going to end up looking like. Because open world is already a big thing to tackle, and to sprinkle multiplayer on top of that and everything else they're trying to do, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
I was thinking about exactly what you said, because I always say Sword and Shield was like full multiplayer. It was like you could just see people existing in your world like MMO style, but you couldn't really truly interact with them. But I'm like, okay, for limited
Gigantamax, is that what it's called? You can do those battles with them too.
Then when you do you go through the
like Destiny with like public events, like like Destiny 1. You'd run around, and then every now and then there'd be something that you could do with those other players. But otherwise, it was just kind of like, see ya, nice armor,
Yeah, the max raids is what you're talking about, and the max raids are very much like you go to a place, you ping 3 other people and you're there, but that's not existing in an open world. That's just like, partying up for a multiplayer thing. And I'm thinking, what I could really see happening is that you could do 4-player like local co-op, and you probably could go end to end, but you're limited to being in the same space. And then probably online would be just extremely limited to capacity. Like these areas you could do online, but if you had 3 other friends with you, you could probably go end to end. Because if you think about it, Pokemon's always been about connecting people physically in person, and I think that's the direction they're gonna go, and they're gonna go back to their GBA roots of like, if you and your friends are together, you're doing local co-op, they'll you don't have to worry about the frame rate dropping. That keeps things tight, and you can like go on like that, which would be cool. And I know people are grown about oh, you can't do it online, but like, if that's the sacrifice we got to make, I think it will be worth it.
Yeah, and this is something I have been championing for the last few months. Nintendo Online has secretly gotten a lot better, right? Mario Party Superstars, great online.
Yep.
Monster Hunter Rise, third-party game, but it ran great online on Switch. There are examples of successful online games on the platform, which when Sword and Shield came out, you didn't really have yet. You had Splatoon, but other than that, even Mario Kart's online is spotty at times. So now that the system is more proven to be online, I can see it working. I do agree, Odell, Pokemon is always about connecting people, but now where online is the way we do that within games, it's nice to see the series adapt to that.
You are... Oh, real quick, you are missing one key component of all this, and it is what features will be added to the Nintendo Switch Online app to make this game work.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Probably nothing. They haven't touched that thing in I feel like years.
Yeah, they haven't done much.
Yeah, they let that way to go the way of the dodo.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. One interesting tidbit, I don't know if y'all knew this, but another Pokemon news today was that Masada-san, who's been the managing director over at Game Freak, stepped down. He is going to be a creative fellow at the Pokemon Company. He's basically moving from games to the development of the brand. And so,
a lot of people... Miyamoto did. It's the exact same.
And so a lot of people are thinking this is like a spiritual passing of the torch. Pokemon is going to become different. Like, all the main players that have worked on Pokemon since its, original Red and Blue are now officially gone. They've all phased out of, still involved to some, I'm pretty sure they give leadership and probably can pull the plug on some things, but they are all now officially phased out. I don't know how much involvement he had with Scarlet and Violet, but definitely going forward, he's not going to be the guy. So maybe we're all in for like a spiritual rebirth of Pokemon. Who knows? I mean, the writing's on the wall for that to happen. So that makes me excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the decisions they made, especially in Arceus, and what we're seeing here, it wouldn't surprise me at all that they're almost like testing the waters for, what could come next. Pokemon's never been a franchise that is, going to completely turn everything on its head, at least in its mainline entries. I think Arceus being the exception, where it was so different. Maybe giving a new team of development leadership the opportunity to kind of spread their wings a little bit and say, okay, what is going to work, what is going to be received well, and what isn't, and kind of learning from that and going forward with it. But yeah, I think with that that torch being passed, giving those people the opportunity to be like, all right, you got the reins, don't mess up, because it's all you now.
And I think that has only led to great things so far at Nintendo. I know Pokemon Company is not within Nintendo, but you look at the Mario team, Mario 3D World, Mario Odyssey was kind of the next generation taking over and deciding what Mario was going to be.
Yeah.
And then you look at Splatoon was viewed as like, these are like Miyamoto's disciples. What are they going to make? It's a new IP, and Splatoon is awesome and it's huge. So to see that same kind of changing of the guard happen at the Pokemon Company is exciting. But I do want to address what I think is the big elephant in the room here, for at least me personally, and you mentioned it, Chris, and that is Legends Arceus. Because everything we're seeing from Scarlet and Violet, gameplay-wise, looks like a return to classic Pokemon, like what Sword and Shield did, the turn-based. Yes, the Pokemon are roaming in the overworld like they did in the wild area of Sword and Shield and throughout the entire game of Legends. But beyond that, there's no sign of the strong and agile style battle mechanic change I really enjoy in Legends Arceus. But most of all, there's no sign of the throwing Pokeball mechanic, of the actually, being a trainer out in the wild and throwing the Pokeball. Odell, you're shaking your head. Why?
Because Arceus is a spinoff. I know officially it's a mainline title, but it's a spinoff. Like, I don't care what no one says. They gave us a spinoff, and yeah, there's some cool things that it did and that we could bring into this. But I think Pokemon's one of those franchises where as much as it changes, it has to stay the same. Like, as far as like core Pokemon game goes, I feel like there's only so much left or to the right you can go before it stops being Pokemon. And I feel like it's important to keep those core things. Like, we're open world, we're doing new things, but same thing with Breath of the Wild. Like, I feel like there's certain things, like, even though it's Zelda, like, you can't deviate from. Like, there's certain identity check marks that you have to hit and are like unbreakable rules. And I feel like, Arceus is fun, and maybe you could just throw the Pokeball for fun's sakes, but how Arceus fundamentally plays is not how I think a core Pokemon game should play in any way. There are ideas from Arceus that I feel like can and should be incorporated, but the gameplay and style as a whole needs to be its own definitive thing in the Legends series if that continues.
I guess I just think that what you see as core tenets of the Pokemon series, I see of what have made the series stale for the last decade plus. I think that Legends Arceus is the best Pokemon has been since the DS era. And I don't think it's particularly close. Like, I think that it is so much more engaging and entertaining and actually has some semblance of a difficulty curve and challenges and still approachable for younger players, but enough meat on the bones for older guys like us to actually enjoy. I thought it was the breath of fresh air that the franchise desperately needed. So I know these games were in development at the same time, right? Legends just came out less than 5 months ago. And now in just over 5 months, we're getting Scarlet and Violet. So I know they were in kind of co-development, and maybe it won't be till the next new gen that we see what they truly decide to bring over from Arceus to the mainline games. I guess I just think for me and for a lot of lapsed Pokemon fans, it's going to be hard to go back to Scarlet and Violet and some of the gameplay mechanics that felt old, that Legends just shattered the formula on in what I thought was a fantastic way. In a way like Breath of the Wild reinvented Zelda, I thought Legends Arceus did that for Pokemon. I was excited for the next mainline Pokemon. So to see that it's coming so soon, which is another thing I think is bizarre, that they aren't letting the series breathe at all. The remakes last fall, Legends this January, the new gen this fall. The output is crazy. I'm just a little disappointed to not see some of those things I loved so much be carried into the new one. So maybe the Legends series will just continue to be its own thing for players like me that enjoy that. But I just don't see the harm in introducing that into the mainline series.
Well, I think of it like this. Like, when I play Arceus, like one of the things I love about Pokemon is like the training and battling aspect of the game. But in Arceus, that's almost non-existent. Yeah, you battle people, but you can go 2, 3, 4 hours and not battle a single person. And the battles are pretty much like, I don't want to say dumbed down, but dumbed down to, well, it's Pokemon, so you got to battle. So here's battle this person for for funsies.
But in Sword and Shield, did you not just steamroll through that entire game? Sword and Shield you can play that with your eyes closed. You don't need to do anything to beat any trainer in that game.
That almost feels like a problem of like the leveling system, though.
Mm-hmm. And I just worry that that's the way these things are balanced now. Maybe with Arceus, they saw, okay, people are up for a challenge, and they can just tweak that a little bit. But Sword and Shield, you just steamroll with the EXP share and the wild area where you get crazy leveling for defeating any of the big Pokemon. It just became a cakewalk.
Oh, I mean, I will give you that. I feel like some of their efforts to make the game more accessible, definitely drove the challenge, into the ground completely. And the challenge is found in, battling other human trainers. But I mean, like Arceus to me was like hard at the very end. It was like, I was like, oh wow, now that we're at the end game, it actually wants me to battle people for real. And they're like 30 levels higher than me. But I feel like that could be an easy fix, you just add difficulties where the level difficulty is like, I'm an expert player, so yeah, everybody's just up like 5 or 10 levels. I mean, then you're fine. And then, I mean, Arceus also actually had no multiplayer component, which I felt like if it did, that game would have been a huge mess. People were like, we were going to get it. I was like, the battling system is not made for multiplayer. It would be nonsense. I still believe the fast and hard styles do not make any logical sense on a competitive level.
I like them. Chris, weigh in. What do you think about Arceus, and if anything should be carried over to the new games?
I definitely liked the way that Arceus like moved at a clip in terms of being in that open world, and like the amount of Pokeballs that you could just chuck at like mons in the wild in like any given area. Like there's a scene from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs where which is such a deep cut. My wife and I love that movie. But there's a scene where it like snows and it's all ice cream, and then the guy runs around going, snowball, and he starts snowballing people. And I felt like that while playing Arceus, where I'd go into an open area and just like pop, 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 and I'm taking all these guys out. And it was just so unlike any other, I guess maybe kind of like Let's Go, but even Let's Go, it was like you had the one Pokemon you were trying to get, and then you got into the Pokemon Go situation, where you're just lobbing it at the same guy. Arceus, I just felt like it was so easy to get into a rhythm of, I'm in this new area, I'm going to explore, what Pokemon are in here, how do I need to approach them, and like it just changed the way I interacted with that world, and it was why I spent so much more time in it than I have in pretty much every other Pokemon game of the last decade. The last big one for me was X and Y. I really haven't gotten into one since, at least too deeply. So I think if they find a balance if they can find that marriage between the two worlds, which I know is like not an easy task, because it's almost like, not to make this about Xbox, it's almost like the Halo problem, where it's like you're trying to appease the old fans who have been here since the beginning, but you also are trying to bring in new people and keep it fresh. How do you meet that in the middle? And at some point, does it start to lose its identity in the process? I think a lot of Pokemon's problems for me have been the menu systems tend to, it's a lot of text. It tends to bog things down. It starts to make the game feel longer than it needs to be for no particular reason. And I think Arceus is the perfect example of how you get around that. But like Odell said, like the battling system in that game is completely broken. And there were a ton of moments in that game where I felt like I really didn't even need to do it. So, I would love them to find a marriage in between, but, and I think this, Scarlet and Violet is probably going to be them trying to look at the audience and say, okay, how are people playing these games, and what do they seem to gravitate towards when they're doing it? And then start to develop, whatever this next gen after the fact is going to be around the marriage of both of those ideas.
Yeah, you guys talked me down to your side of the fence a little bit. I didn't consider the online competitive side of things really at all, because that's not a part of Pokemon I'm super plugged into, but I know that's huge, so it does obviously make sense that you'd want to return to the more traditional battle. I guess my takeaway at the end of this, I hope the Legends series continues. I think it will. Arceus sold gangbusters. I think it will continue, but I really like that new direction for Pokemon, and I'm curious to see how this open world plays out in this one.
Yeah, and y'all both said this at the top of the topic. We truly still don't know what this game is really about or what it can do. Yeah. For all we know, this game has already fixed the marriage problem. Like maybe, if you bump into a Pokemon or if they get wild, you go in traditional battle, but maybe you can still, sneak or, encounter them, maybe not exactly like Arceus, but there's some, new way that makes sense. Like, we still don't know what the new battle mechanic will be, if there is one. We still don't know what the theme is. Like I said, we don't even know the name of the region. So it'll be interesting to see. Right now, we all assume it's traditional, but again, maybe it's not, because like I always tell people, Arceus was they never said it was an open world game, and they never marketed it as an open world game. But this one they have. So I'm like, I feel like just that alone, and especially, like y'all said, you can go anywhere that you want, not dependent on the story. So those two things are already huge. And I feel like just because of that, something fundamentally has to be different already. We just don't know what it is.
We got to move on. I'll just end with Arceus isn't really open world. It's like Monster Hunter. It's just these separate areas you go to. Certain monsters live there. You can catch them there. And then you have to go back to the hub town before going to the next area. It's very Monster Hunter. So them not calling that one open world and then using the term for this one makes me think it's going to be pretty open world.
Big.
So,
yeah.
Excited to see what it is. And then I also want to just differentiate ourselves from other kind of complaining Pokemon fans out there. I think we all understand at the end of the day, games are primarily made for and targeted at kids, and we're just the grown men who continue to play this series that is well above the target audience, which is fine. I mean, it's obviously fine. We're doing a Nintendo podcast, but yeah.
I mean,
I'm not
all those
gonna
15, 20 million people can't be below the age of 16.
Yeah.
That's why Pokemon sells more every year, though, because there's always more kids, and no one ever stops buying them.
Right.
It's like you're on the train, and you never get off. Yeah. But, yeah, I don't want to be... I don't think Pokemon should be made for me. I understand what they're going for there, but I'm excited. Excited to see what Scarlet and Violet ends up being. We got to move on, though, to our next topic of the night, which is I want to talk about the impending Nintendo Direct as of now, as of recording. Nothing has been announced, but let's be fair. We're going to presume something is going to happen. They're going to have a non-E3 June Nintendo Direct. The only year they haven't in the last 20 years was 2020 when everything was so uncertain. So it's going to happen. It's probably going to be the next 2 weeks. So I just want to go through, I don't want to go pie in the sky. What do we want to get announced? We can maybe talk about that a little bit next week. This week, I want to go through games that are already on the books with a release date. What are we expecting to see in the Nintendo Direct presentation from these games? What do we still need to see to be convinced of these games before they come out? Games that are announced with no release date, do we think they're going to show or not? And then maybe some updates to previously released titles. So I got a list here. We'll start at the top. We got Mario Strikers Battle League. It's coming out on June 10th. I think that's going to be before. You guys think this needs to show in the Direct? And if so, what do you think we're going to see from it?
Honestly, no. I feel like we've seen enough. We've had announcements of the Battle Pass. We've seen matches. On this weekend, we're gonna have the demo, the time demos, and all that. I just really, if they're gonna go big, show us new things. And I feel like Mario Strikers doesn't have anything else new to show us at this point, other than the actual game.
Yeah, I could see them doing if they did anything. Either a launch trailer, which sometimes that happens. That can be traditional in some of their directs, or have a explanation of hey, Mario Strikers is available now. The first online event is this. If you play, you get this outfit for so and so. And then right. I could see them doing maybe something like that, but again, I don't think they need to. They have this demo out there. It was at the previous Direct. I imagine they're going to have a big push for it, or if they kind of are now at this point. Sorry for the cats fighting behind me. And yeah, outside of that, whoa, there's not a whole lot. I think that we need to see this game at this point. I just want to play it.
Yeah, and we'll be able to this weekend. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, I think it'll show. I think we'll get our first announcement of who the first DLC character is. They announced it is going to have that same piecemeal strategy that their other sports games have had on Switch, and I think it's going to be Daisy. She's the clear one missing, the one that people want. So I think it'll be a quick mention. We got Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, which is coming out 2 weeks after that on June 24th. This is the Three Houses version of Fire Emblem Warriors. They've been showing on Twitter that basically all of the students from Three Houses are playable in this thing. I'll just get mine out of the way first. I think it shows, and I think it leads into a teaser for a new Fire. I know I said no new announcements, but I think that we're going to get a new mainline Fire Emblem announced in conjunction with just a reminder that this game's coming, because similar to Strikers, I don't think we need to see much more of it. I think we know Warriors games are very much a known quantity. I think people know who's going to pick it up and who's not. So I think that we're going to get a new Fire Emblem though this E3. That's one of my big predictions.
Wow.
Do you guys care about the Warriors games at all? I feel like no one likes the Nintendo Warriors games, but I really do. I think they're a lot of fun.
Really, really enjoyed the original Hyrule Warriors. I had a big problem with the second one. I think
really. I feel
think
like most people are swapped on that opinion.
I think that game mainly because I think it ran really, really poorly. I think if it were optimized, I don't know if it's gotten better. I don't know if they patched it. I haven't tried to play it since launch.
I don't think so.
But when it launched, I was like, this game's running at like 20 frames a second, and it's unacceptable. And I will not play it.
I'm not a fan of any Tengai Musi style game. Apologies if I'm saying that wrong.
Musa.
And it thank you. And it bothers me that all my favorite series keep doing it. People were like, "Oh, Hyrule." I played Age of Calamity because it had story elements. So I was like, oh God, why are they doing this to me? And I didn't like it. And then people swore to me Persona 5 Strikers was it's different this time. And at least for me, it's never different. It's never good enough. And it's like, stop putting canon storylines in these games. I cannot grind enough to get through them.
Well, I can tell you Age of Calamity is very much not canon. So there's nothing really missing there. Even if the marketing tried to make it look like it was canon, it is not.
Really?
It is absolutely not. Oh, yeah. It's awesome. It kicks butt, and you should play it, but it is not canon.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good, because I played the demo, and I was like, yeah, definitely not.
I love that game. I love Age of Calamity. Yeah, it runs like crap, but I guess I don't care. Okay, we got Live Alive is coming out on July 22nd. Nintendo is publishing that outside of Japan. Square Enix publishing it in Japan. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 3, another big JRPG, coming out a week later on July 29th. I think Xenoblade is a big blind spot for the Toadstool panel. Is that right?
Yep.
I guess I gotta buckle down and play them. I gotta play through them.
I have the first one.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
You know, this is gonna sound so horrible because I've defended Nintendo's graphic stylings for so long, but when I saw the original Xenoblade Chronicles, I was like, no, this game looks
on the
horrid.
Wii version.
Yes, I was like, this looks horrid, and and it looked very JRPG. And what from what I'm told is, it has the typical JRPG things where like, it's 100 hours. There's parts where you really got to grind, and I'm like, I visually can't grind for 40 hours looking like this.
Yeah,
no, thank you.
But I will go on the flip side of that real quick and say Xenoblade Chronicles 3 looks stunning. I think it's going to be the best looking game on Switch. Whoa, like Monolith Soft, what they squeeze out of the Switch is super impressive. I love the art style they're going for in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I know Xenoblade fans are very excited, and I'm going to pledge to the fledgling Toadstool community to play Xenoblade Chronicles, so we can have a fan of it on the panel. I played actually a lot of X on Wii U, since that was all there was to play, and I had a good time with it. It was just too long for me to get all the way through.
I will say this: it's the Smash effect because of Shulk importance in Smash throughout, his inclusion and the subsequent characters from the sequel. I'm like, these characters seem actually pretty interesting. Like there was a period where I was like, maybe I need to pick up that Switch remake and see what's up with that.
So with these games, anything you expect to see or need to see in the presentation before they come out next month?
Live Alive will have a playable demo.
Ooh, I like that.
Available after the show?
Yep. That is I'm like sticking my flag in the ground.
I am very excited for that game. I think it looks phenomenal.
I think a lot of people are very excited in just how different it is and how it's just been so unavailable in the United States, like for how old it is. Granted, like I am not going to sit here and act like, oh my God, Live. I've been waiting for this my whole life. I didn't know what that was until the Direct dropped, and neither did you. Like most of us didn't. I'm very excited. I love when weird games like that get localized though and just become available. Like it's not this like huge burden to the publisher or the developer or anything like that. Like the framework is already there. Just modernize it, ship it, localize it. You're good to go.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for 2D RPGs. I like if I could somehow create a subgenre of RPG called 2D RPGs, that would probably be my favorite genre of games.
Big triangle strategy guy, are you?
You know, I played Triangle Strategy, and I really wanted more out that game. I know we're not here to talk about that, but it suffered from the Octopath Traveler game, where like halfway through the game, it didn't know what to do to get you to the end.
And that is why I am very excited for Live Alive, because it is a 20-hour game. I adore everything about Octopath Traveler, but you do everybody's intro story, like the first 2 chapters of everyone. It's like, all right, next story chapter is like 12 levels above you. And I just was done. I put it down. And I loved it. I love the combat. I love the art style. I love everything in that game. So to have a game in the same art style, I know it's a much different game, but experiencing these stories across different timelines, different periods of time, I'm very excited. I think it's a bit of a bummer that Xenoblade and Live Alive are launching a week apart. I think that's a big bummer. Similar genre. I know Xenoblade is for Xenoblade fans, right? The story looks like it's going to link 1 and 2. It's like, if you haven't played the first 2, 3 is probably not for you. So they know their audience with that one. But Live Alive, I'm worried that could get hit a little bit. Launching a week before a huge, gorgeous AAA Nintendo first-party JRPG.
It seems like kind of a blunder on their part. But again, I mean, they're very different. It just seems like...
next game... Splatoon 3, I'm sure, was supposed to launch in July, and they flipped spots. Because remember, Xenoblade was announced for September, and they swapped it.
Right.
And it had to be Splatoon wasn't ready yet, which is the next game on our list. Splatoon 3 is coming September 9th. I'm a huge Splatoon fan, and I am not sold on Splatoon 3 yet. I know we've talked about it off the show before. I don't know why this is coming now, when you're probably only a couple years from the next Nintendo console, when Splatoon 2 still has a active online community, when you just added the Octo expansion to the expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online. Splatoon is in a fine place, and we haven't seen anything from Splatoon 3 to justify why it's going to be different, except for the fact that it'll probably sell 10 million copies. But to that I say, why not hold it for the next console and have it be a reason for Splatoon fans to pick up and adopt the next console, rather than just push it out on Switch when both the franchise and the console are doing fine. So I guess personally, I have high expectations for Splatoon 3 to show this will be the last Direct before it comes out on September 9th. Their next Direct will probably be after, like the week or two after Splatoon 3 launches. So I'm expecting a big 5+ minute showing in this thing for Splatoon 3, a Treehouse segment after. Sell me, a diehard Splatoon fan, on why you're making this game and why it's coming out on Switch. That's how I feel about this one. How about you guys?
I need to see a full match played out. That's where I'm at in Splatoon 3, because everything we've seen so far, I've said it looks like Splatoon 2.5, but I'm actually gonna dial that back and say it looks like just more Splatoon 2. Like, you might as well just told me you added some new battle arenas. Like you said, like, I'm not sold on it, and I'm really gonna need some gameplay innovation to make me buy Splatoon 3. I'm not the biggest fan of Shu, but I do enjoy the game. I thoroughly enjoy the game. If I had an online squad, I would probably play it a lot more often.
Right here. You're looking at him. Maybe. I don't know if Chris likes Splatoon.
Well, no, I love Splatoon, but as we've said off the show before, I need to see that they have fixed the matchmaking system.
And there it is.
That is the biggest thing for me, is that it is the online is more stable, and that if the 3 of us want to play together, it's not, hey, let's hop into a lobby. Oh, half of you are on the other team. Oh, and you can't talk to each other. And like, it's death by 1,000 cuts, the whole experience. And it's such a shame, because it's such an easy game to hop in and out of. Like, it is the, oh, hello cat. It is the perfect after work game of, like, you know what? I've got like 25 minutes before I have to do like my adult responsibilities, but I can get like 4 games out of that. And in Splatoon, that's amazing.
And it takes 20 of those minutes to get through the opening stage intro.
Right.
Get rid of that, please, too, Nintendo.
Oh, man. The one thing I am interested in, and I don't know what made me think of it tonight, is what are the chances that they would add a battle royale to Splatoon?
I think that's the big thing. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be 100. I think it's going to be like between 30 and 50.
I could see
is
it
the
like
number I would peg it at.
32 is my guess, like something like that.
But I think it would be really cool. I bet there'll only be like one small map probably for it to start. But I do think that's the big thing, and I think they're waiting for E3 to show it. Because they did already release one Turf War on Twitter. They posted a 3-minute video of one Turf War. And apart from you launch yourself in from like this cannon instead of just showing up at the spawn point, it's going to prevent spawn camping because you can kind of launch into this big area where a spawn camper, which I'm guilty of, I'm the biggest spawn camper. A spawn camper wouldn't be able to take you out. So other than that, it looked like Splatoon 2. So there's got to be something. I'm saying it. There's got to be something. And Chris, I think that's it. I think it's a battle royale.
Me too, man. Me too.
I don't know. Splatoon's been pretty good at the misdirects. Maybe the launch of the game will lead into the next Switch.
September?
I mean, not like the actual thing, but it'll be like, I don't know. Ever since Splatoon faked me out with the Smash Brothers things, I'm like, yeah, this is what you do. This is your role in my life now.
Honestly, guys, with Nintendo hardware, or the last 2 releases we've had, anything is possible. We've had the Switch Lite just dropped one day in some random like PR article and a video of a guy going, here it is. And then the OLED Switch, I believe, was at E3 as well.
No, it was just out of nowhere.
Or that was out of... Oh, okay. So that was after Metroid Dread was already announced then.
Yeah, don't you remember? It was the whole... The Switch 2 announcement, the OLED.
Oh my God, that's right.
I think they did it a week before E3, so people weren't wondering about going into E3.
That's right.
I think it was like the week before. They just dropped it on Twitter.
Because they wanted to like temper expectations. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So who knows?
Oh, man.
Who knows? Yeah, that's Splatoon 3. Waiting to see more. I had Pokemon on Scarlet and Violet on this list. We already talked enough about those. I bet it'll show up for like, this exists. We just dropped a big trailer about it, but probably nothing earth-shattering. But let's get into the games announced with no release date, and I'll rally them off here. Bayonetta 3, Breath of the Wild 2, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which has dropped off the face of the earth since it was announced. Advance Wars 1 and 2, which had a release date, was delayed due to world events. And then Metroid Prime 4, which, speaking of dropping off the earth, that has been missing for about 3 years. So I want to start with Zelda. Zelda's always on the mind. Chris, does Zelda show at E3?
No, it doesn't.
That hurts.
I really don't think it does. I think they are, especially, they are in such a precarious situation right now, coming off of the heels of Elden Ring, which people are arguing is like one of the greatest open world games of all time and the greatest things in sliced bread, and yada, yada, yada. And I just don't care about that game, but other people do. And I think they are trying to be... Plus, they have to one-up themselves, right? Like, Breath of the Wild is a lot of people's #1 game of all time. I think if they don't have anything to show, or if they think it's not in a state to show it, they won't do it. I still don't know what to think about, there were rumors that this thing was going to launch alongside a successor to the Switch. And people looking at gameplay. I'm out on it, but
I'm still hopeful. I don't care.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because I want it and I like hardware. And I like hardware that runs my games better. Like, I love my OLED Switch, but I'd love to be able to play Age of Calamity too. That would be nice.
Age of Calamity 2?
No, not that. Yeah, but no, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't show up. I just hope that they have something to quench the thirst of all of us if it's not there. Like, if it's and this isn't a knock against JRPGs, but if it's like a JRPG that I don't care about, like, I'm going to be really bummed because there's not going to be a whole lot for me throughout the Nintendo year.
It's going to be Fire Emblem. I'm telling you right now.
I
think it's going to be Fire Emblem.
I could see it being Fire Emblem, and I could see myself being like, okay, this is what we're doing. All right.
But they already have Pokemon. I don't know if it's going to be anything. I mean, I'm looking at this right now. I think you get Bayonetta in October. We know you get Splatoon in September. We know Pokemon's in November. What's there room for? Like, I don't know if there's going to be another big game.
Maybe
or Pokemon is the big game.
maybe Sparks of Hope. Sparks of Hope will either drop in August, November, or next year.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great call.
I don't think there's any other space for it.
I got to address what you said about Zelda.
Ubisoft betrayed me with Beyond Good and Evil 2, so Sparks of Hope, I don't know. There is no hope for me. No pun intended.
The sparks are gone.
Yeah, the embers have been extinguished.
Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, if it is a spring 2023 product, it will be at E3. If it is not there, that thing is coming out next fall.
Yep.
I will stand by that.
Is that a boardroom guarantee?
It is. It is a boardroom guarantee. When this happened 6 years ago now, 6 years ago, Nintendo delayed Breath of the Wild out of 2016 into spring of 2017. They did it in April. Exact same situation as when Breath of the Wild 2 was delayed. So I'm telling you, and then the big game at that E3 was still Zelda. It still was. I'm looking at what this lineup is. I'm looking at Pokemon does their own thing. It won't be a huge thing in the Nintendo Direct. Bayonetta is very niche. It's not going to be a big slot. Splatoon is going to be one of the big things. But I think the other big thing is Zelda. I think we get a title. I think it hits next year.
You think they're dropping the title?
Yep, that's what they did with Breath of the Wild. I think
Land of the Elders.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
Granted, they're in a very different spot. 6 years ago, if you remember, Breath of the Wild was literally the only game at E3. The entire show floor was like 100 TVs. That was all Breath of the Wild. So it was all that they brought. They put all their chips in that. It worked. Look where we are now. It works very well. Now they don't have to lean back on Zelda as hard as they did back then. But I think we're going to get a trailer, a title, and maybe some gameplay. I don't know if there's going to be like a whole treehouse for it, but I think it's time. I think it's time to pull it back. It is 3 years since this thing was announced. And if there's any spark of hope that this thing is hitting in spring of 2023, we got to see it this month.
I disagree. I think it's just going to have its own direct, separate of what they're doing for E3. And instead of Fire Emblem, instead of Zelda, we're probably going to get the return of one of Nintendo's big IPs we haven't seen, whether that's Mario, DK, and if we're being, if we want to wish well, maybe a Metroid or something. I think we have a better chance of that happening, honestly. I think Zelda doesn't need to be shown. I think there's been enough drum attention. There's a hope where Nintendo doesn't need to be like, here's some crumbs to keep you like, we're already hooked. We're on the IV. Being drip fed Zelda. They know we're good with that.
If it was the spring direct or the fall direct, I agree with you. The June direct is always bigger. Even if E3 is canceled or not, the June direct is always big. I don't think they go without mentioning it. I think we're gonna get Wind Waker HD, maybe Twilight Princess also. Hopefully both of them. I don't think they announced that without giving us something. Every time they've given us a little bit of something.
This is what you're going to get, and you're going to be mad at me, but I'm telling you, we're going to get that, hi, I'm insert Nintendo guy here. It's still in development. Thank you. The bow, and move on. That's what we're getting. We're going to get the, hey, we're still doing it.
Yeah, we're not ready to show anything at this time, but we appreciate you being patient.
Then they're going to add like 2 more seconds.
Or it'll be
one video they keep adding 2 seconds to every time we see.
Or it'll be that, or it'll be, to hold you over, please enjoy the Wind Waker HD when it releases on the Nintendo Switch.
We already have the Wind Waker HD. We need the Twilight Princess HD. The true Twilight Princess HD.
My second favorite game of all time, as declared on episode 0. Check it out. Toadstool Boardroom. Okay, so we disagree on Zelda. I say it'll be there. You two say no.
What we do need is Advance Wars new release date, because I was looking forward to that game so much.
Nope.
You don't think so?
I don't think you see that game if you see that game, I could see this being like a Star Fox 2 situation where
my God,
that game just disappears and you don't see it anymore. And which is crazy because there were people out there that literally had it installed on their Switch and were able to play.
But it's done. It's not like, I get, world events, but I'm like, there's no way you have a complete product and you never release it.
Sure, that happens all the time.
That series is just kind of doomed. I was surprised they went back to the well. Even if this game makes it out, it won't sell well. This is the end for Advance Wars. Yeah. And actually, I was on Nintendo's release calendar website, And it's not like the front-facing like upcoming Switch games with the prices and like the eShop links. This is like it kind of looks more of like the back-end index, like the same type of page where you see like sales numbers for Switch and for different games. It's what it looks like. It's like for investors. This game dropped off the calendar, and they have Bayonetta 3 and Zelda on there, both of which are announced without release dates, but Advance Wars is just gone.
Yep.
So y'all think it's just done, dead in the dirt? Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Not until everything, the dust has settled, regardless of however all of that goes. No, you're not going to see that game. Nintendo doesn't want to be affiliated with any of that in any way if they can help it.
I'm not sure I'm with you yet. I still could see it coming out, but I could see it. I could see us never seeing Advance Wars, which is a shame.
I do agree. Advance Wars, the series is dead, but not the remake, because the remake is just I don't know.
I have it pre-ordered. Like I was supposed to get it. You know.
All right, let's quickly run through these last two. We talked about Zelda. We talked about Rabbids enough. We talked about Advance Wars. Bayonetta 3, I think it gets a release date. I think it's one of the bigger games of the show.
It's time.
I think it's coming in October.
Yeah.
It's a very Halloween-y game. I think it fits in October pretty well with what they have. Any disagreements?
I'm curious how that game's going to run on the Switch.
I mean, if it's anything like the first two, if it's not more demanding than the first two, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because those were on there, but is that enough for Bayonetta fans? I don't know.
Last one here, Metroid Prime 4. No chance, not showing up. That's what I'm landing on.
This is what I wanted to say earlier. What are the chances that they're like, hey, you don't get any Breath of the Wild footage, but we're finally putting Metroid Prime Trilogy out on the Switch? Because we need something. It's just like it's sitting in a vault somewhere.
Do they though? I feel like compared to like their calendar is pretty stacked. Like the more I look at it, I'm like,
no, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And when we're in a place where they don't need to plug the hole that Zelda left behind, because they have Pokemon, which is going to be one of the best-selling games of the year. So they don't need it. So I'm like, are they just holding back on the Zelda HD ports and the Metroid Prime remake, and they're just waiting until there's a lull? But with the way the Switch is cranking out games right now, that lull's not coming this year. Maybe it comes next spring when Zelda gets delayed to the fall. But right now, they're doing fine. It's in a very different place than the Wii U, where it was like, oh God, we need to turn around Twilight Princess HD in 3 months, get it out the door. We're not like that anymore. So,
well, and even
I'm
now,
not sure how many surprises there's going to be.
That's just it. Like last year, it was a lot of, you had WarioWare, you had Metroid. Like there were games that they dropped at that show, and they're like, oh, by the way, they're going to be out before the end of the year. Mario Party. Like there were very, very big titles. Even if they do that this year, in the beginning of the Switch life cycle, we really did see, that one game per month, one major like headlining game per month. I don't see them like stepping on their own toes for the most part. It really just leaves August and this month, which like they're not going to do that. A game comes out tomorrow, which is
this month
with his Strikers.
June, we're in June.
Yeah,
we got 2 big games this month.
So,
with Fire Emblem and Strikers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't think they could leave the show without mentioning Metroid to some capacity. I feel like it may not be 4, but I feel like it has
15 years.
I mean, yeah, they did, but I feel like if they're smart, you can't shadow drop Dread and then go silent on Metroid at your biggest showcase of the year, like you said. I don't think a world exists where it'll be smart to do that.
I would love to see Metroid. Yeah, I don't think Prime 4 shows up yet. I think we see Prime 4 in the Direct next spring, the March Direct of 2023.
And even then, it's a teaser. It's not.
Yeah. More E3.
Like, oh, no, I'm not expecting anything solid. Just a mention. Just, a good old hat nod.
Yeah.
So those are the big games that aren't out yet that we know are coming. Well, maybe not Advance Wars. Real quick, I just want to run through updates to some previously released titles. Nintendo Switch Sports just came out. We know golf is coming eventually. That's something that maybe gets a 30-second hit here. Kirby and the Forgotten Land could get some DLC. Star Allies got a lot of DLC on Switch, but Forgotten Land's a much more complete game, so I could see that being a complete product or them moving on. Legends Arceus got that random update with harder missions. I think that game's done. I think the focus is on to the next games. I would bet you all the money I have that we get the next wave of Mario Kart 8 DLC announced. It just makes too much sense for them to do that at every direct. And then my big hope is Mario Party gets new boards because
they need it. I love the board. I love the horror board in that game. It's the best one, but I'm so tired of playing it. I need more in there.
No, my thing is that game's set up for you to see. The fact that they show you the old school board before you play the new one is so great. It gives me that little, hee feeling inside of me. And I'm just like, there's no way you don't make more of this. There's literally, like, you do it Mario Kart style. I don't care. Just be like 3 new boards every 3 months. Cool.
Yeah, I would do that. Even, a couple mini games here and there. They don't have to add a ton. They have all the big ones. Shy Guy Says is there. But
where's Hotel Goomba?
Ooh,
I love that game.
That game's
Bring it
real
back.
good.
Where's there's some characters they could add too.
Oh, Monty Mole's not in it. It's an outrage.
I think that's okay.
Dry Bones isn't in it.
Yeah,
every Mario Party up until now just feels like an incomplete package, and it's so frustrating. For like the past 4 titles, it feels like.
Yeah. What, 8, 9, 10, 7? I wasn't big on.
The cruise ship one. I like 7. 7 was fun.
I hated the drive in the car one. It was fun, like once I got it, but then it was like, this is kind of like I'm not feeling this.
Yeah.
The Superstars revitalized that series. I hope that it continues. But I just want DLC. Like, it was baffling they never did it for Super Mario Party. It's baffling they haven't done it yet for this one.
Yeah.
So I hope it shows up. I think it'd be smart. Just throw it in the expansion pack. Come on, that's what you're doing with all your DLC these days, right? Just throw it in there. All right, last thing. We're running short on time, but a quick PSA if you didn't hear, Mario Strikers Battle League is getting a free demo this weekend. You can download it now. You can go and play the tutorials. I have played an absurd amount of the tutorials just because I'm very excited for this game. June 3 to June 5th, that is this Friday through Sunday. There's a bunch of different times. I'm not going to read them to you here. You can go find them yourself on Nintendo's Twitter. But yeah, we're playing some Strikers this weekend.
I am looking forward to it. I was playing some Strikers from the GameCube era on my Steam Deck this weekend.
Oh, this guy.
Does it hold up for you?
It does. That game still got it.
It does.
And the Wii one is excellent. Charged?
I like the GameCube one more.
I do too. But...
Pretty much everything that's on the Wii was better on the GameCube.
Yeah.
But that is a discussion for another time.
Day.
We're going to talk about more Mario Strikers next week once we've gotten a chance to play the game and we can go talk about our hands-on with it and talk about the Nintendo's new reveal that they are going to be doing the piecemeal content strategy. I want to get into that with you guys on next week's show. But that is going to do it for us this week on the Toadstool Boardroom. You can find us on Twitter at ToadstoolBR. You can send us an email, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. You can find Odell at
Odell Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media.
You can find Chris at
Shrives93 all over the internet.
And you can find me at Logan J. Plant on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining us here in this inaugural meeting of the Toadstool Boardroom. We hope you had a great time. We certainly did. And we'll catch you next Thursday right back here on the Toadstool Boardroom.
Peace.
Later.